G'day guys, welcome back to another episode. It's been a hot minute since the last one, but I'm keen to get back into it. We're doing something we haven't done on the channel before, and that is chasing some squid off the rocks. Conditions are looking all right. I'll get into what I'm looking for, all the gear and all that as usual, and I'll do that right after the intro. Chasing squiddies. So as usual, this is going to be a bit of a crash course. I'll try and pass on as much info without making it boring. If you are impatient, you can skip forward to when I get my first squid at this time here. But before that, talk a little bit about squid, and then we'll go over the setup I'm using. So squid only have a lifespan of about 2 years, so that means you can chase all throughout their lifespan. They're a viable target off the rocks. But autumn does get a very good rap for a prime time of year for squidding. As for the terrain that you're looking for, they aren't the best swimmers, so conditions are as calm, the calmer the better. Or you're looking for very protected bays and that kind of thing. That's why I've snuck up to this little area here. There's not much swell today, but it's looking pretty good. But you don't want it rough at all for them. I think they're just hunkered down trying to survive rather than coming out and eating. So you're looking for rocky areas with some kelp and that kind of thing. You can also find them over seagrass beds. But that should basically get you in the right direction for finding some areas. As for the rods, look, you could get away with using your bream setup or your flatty setup. What I've gone for here, this is a 10'6", 3 to 5 kilo rod, and off the rocks that extra bit of length is just going to help with getting your squid jig back or manoeuvring a squid up onto the rocks to collect him, that kind of thing. But what you're after is a pretty light rod, so 3 to 5, you wouldn't want to go heavier than that. The squid specialty rods, they're usually like 2 to 4, 1 to 3 kilos. So you want something that's got a very light tip to soak up the squid's lunges. They're not the most sporting fish to catch in the world, but you do want to make sure that you're cushioning their lunges by having a soft rod and also having a very loose drag, because you might just have him by one tentacle and you don't want him to pull himself off. So I've got 10'6", 3 to 5 kilo rod, and then what I've got is a 2500 size reel, and this is the reel I use for flathead and little jew, where it's got 10-pound braid on it, and I've actually got a 16-pound fluorocarbon leader. Now squid isn't going to bust you off, but having that heavier leader just means that if your squid jig gets caught on a bit of kelp or a rock, there is a chance that you're going to be able to pull it free. You might be 1 or 2 barbs on the bottom less, but you won't go through your squid jigs as quick. And what I'll do is, if you've never seen one before, there's your squid jig. Pretty strange looking thing, but they do the damage. As for the technique with them, well, as close to the bottom as you can get is generally going to have you get the best results. So the squid will be hiding down in the weed, in the rocks, and then as you work this lure, which is just giving a single lift, sharp jab of the rod, or you can do a couple, you can do 3, but what you're doing is you're getting that squid jig to dart and then a slow fall. And just like with most fish, even though they're not a fish, but just like with most target species, they're going to hit it on that drop. But what they'll do is they will actually come and try and grab it near the center of the squid jig there. And you can see that's where one's had his teeth into it. And so that's also why you want to give it a nice sharp lift, is that it's going to create a nice darting action. But also if the squid's holding on halfway, it's going to mean that this thing is ripped sideways and it's going to catch his tentacles. If you do it too softly, then you're actually going to not get him. And so that's worth thinking about. If you have a squid following your lure in and he finally grabs it right there at your feet, don't try and finesse those hooks into him. Give it a sharp jab and you'll bring those barbs around into his tentacles. And look, that's about it. Squid fishing doesn't have to be rocket science. There is gear and people and squid jigs that are, you know, take it very seriously and are quite expensive. But you don't need much to get into the sport. And I'll show off my selection of squid jigs in a second here, but what I'd recommend, especially if you're fishing a new area, is to probably chuck on the cheapest squid jig you've got, because A, it might work and they might be all over it, and B, you're not going to be that heartbroken as you figure out the depth of the area you're fishing if you lose it. But it certainly is worth having a few different sizes and colours in your arsenal as well. So that's what I'm going to do. I've got a whole rock face to work around here. I'm going to quite quickly change colours, change sizes if needed, and see what they want for the day. As well as I will downsize the leader. Like 16 pound is very, very heavy for them, and the water is very clear at the moment. They've got those big eyes, so if I'm having no luv at all after working through some colours and sizes, then I'll downsize the leader probably straight to 8 pound. I wouldn't ever go under 8 pound unless I'm fishing in not really a rock situation. If it's a very protected bay and clear water, I might go down to 6 or 4 pound, but 8 will do the trick. Right, and we have got what feels to be a pretty damn nice squid. Ah, he's not bad. Good one to start with. So you're certainly not trying to bring him in before they reef you or anything like that. Just a slow, steady wind. If they're big enough to take a bit of drag, then let him. So there he is down there. And what would be really nice is a spot to wash him up with. But I can see I've got him pretty good, so I'm just going to give a nice steady lift up onto the rocks. Oh yeah, there's the ink. And there's our first squidly. So that is a lovely little green eyes southern calamari. I haven't quite decided whether these squid are going to be food or dewy food, but either way, good to get one. So I am just going to cast straight back out where I got him, because they don't, these southern calamari, they don't school up like the arrow squid, but they do certainly like to hang out in pairs or even a few of them. Right, now to dispatch him, you can get these fancy squid ikijimi tools, or you can give him the old squid karate chop. So what you want to do is just there, back of the hood, in between the eyes. You're just going to give him a nice little karate chop. And you just got to be careful. If you do it too hard, you're going to nearly pop his head off. If you do it too light, then all you're doing is bashing a squid. Anyways, let's see if we can get it here in one go. So there goes, what you can see here is his head is dead, but I'm not sure if they've got two brains. I'll put it up on the screen now if that's correct, but what he's going to need is another whack just to kill the body as well. So you'll see his body will go white after another good hit, just like that. And that is a dispatch squid. Well, now we've got our first squid out of the way. I'll give a few more little pointers and tips here for you. So the best way to kind of gauge if you're getting near the bottom is you're going to have to guesstimate about how deep it is. But what you want to do is check out the sink rate of your squid jig. You know, I'll bring it in a bit closer so hopefully you guys can see it. But here I can see it's probably going about 1 metre deep every 4 seconds or so. So out there I think it's going to be about 5 metres or such. So if I do a count to 15 and then a lift and then a count to 4, 5, 6 and then a lift, hopefully I've got that squid jig deep enough that it's near the bottom but you're not going to get snagged. Another thing which I'm going to do here in a second is just smear a little bit of scent on it. Kind of doesn't matter what scent. I don't know if a squid scent would work, but what that's going to do is the squid taste with their feet. So if you happen to have a squid come up and grab it, but then you accidentally sting him, with the scent there, he's hopefully got a taste that it is actually something edible, and he might come back for it. If you sting a squid without any scent on, they're just going to go. They're going to know that is not worth chasing. It didn't taste like food and it was sharp. And just quickly, if you were going to get into it, there is actual purpose-made squid scents come in a little spray bottle. And they do look pretty cool, but if you're not going to do much squidding, I'd probably just stick with a bit of S-Factor or any other scent. I guess the only issue with the S-Factor and all the rest is it is coloured and it will colour your squid jig a little bit, but I don't think that's too much of a bad thing. So just letting it get all the way to the bottom, and I kind of know with each lift I'm going to bring it 1 metre, 2 metres up off the bottom. So I'm going to go a lift and then just a count to about 6 seconds. And that is it. That's how simple squid jigging can be. Alright, well I worked the area with the old cheapo and only got that one squid. I've got a feeling it's worth changing colours now and fishing the same area for a little bit longer. So if you're squid fishing, it definitely is worth getting some just quick clips. You can get special easy ones, squid ones, but what I've been using for, it must be a year or so now, are these mustard fast hatch, and I've actually been using them for all of my lure fishing. From these smaller ones for bream, I've just been taking the split rings off of lures if they have them, or just putting that straight to a jig head, and I haven't really noticed a decline in catch rate. So there's a little tip for you, but for squidding they are pretty awesome as well. So as for squid jigs, you've got a range, like I guess the range we would use is down to these 2.0 size. These are 2.5s, 3s through here. And then I've got a couple of bigger ones. I very rarely put these ones on. If you were to just get a handful of squid jigs, I'd probably get most of them in this 2.5 and 3 kind of size. These are probably 3 actually too. Yeah, they are. So this 2.5 size down to the 2 size is what I'd be looking at. So, and there is guides out there of what colour body and the outside cloth to use depending on the weather conditions. I just have my favourite jigs. I know which ones have worked well for me. This white one, well, which used to be white, that's usually my go-to for daytime squidding. And then for night time, I usually like this little pink guy. That was doing very well, especially up around Lake Macquarie, if anyone's up there, around the edges of the lake. But we're going to chuck on Old Faithful, even though he's looking not so wide anymore. And we'll fish the same area. Maybe try one more lure and then start heading around the rocks and find some different squid. Right, we've got our second on the Old Faithful white. Feels to be about roughly the same size, maybe a bit bigger, a wee bit bigger. Now I'm going to have to have an assess of how well he's hooked, and if I can lift him, I'll lift him, otherwise you'll have to get around somewhere. So I've got 2 tentacles, he's going to be right, famous last words. But there we go, we've got our, oh, that was close, he nearly inked me. Got our second squidly. Yoo! There he is, he was not coming off. Got heaps of the barbs in him. Yeah, he definitely wasn't coming off. Right, I'll dispatch him and we'll see if we can get another one. Rightio, spot number 3. Another semi-protected little cove. But just going to keep up the exact same stuff. I know it's a little bit shallower over here, so just giving it less time to sink. A nice sharp lift of the rod. I think I just stung one. Yeah, pretty sure I just stung one and he's not coming back. It was just that bit of weight, and then he must have had it just by one tentacle and it's pulled through. And then I've given it too much time and we've got the bottom. So, fingers crossed, having that heavier leader and a kind of heavy main line, what we're going to do is pull out of, yes, we're going to pull out of whatever we were caught on. Probably have a bit of gunk on the bottom of the squid jig, but there you go. If you were using just kind of like 8 or 6 pound through, we probably would have lost that one. So that's the benefit of just going heavier than you need to catch squid. You could get away with 4 pound. They're not gonna brick you or anything, but you just go heavier just to save yourself some money. And since we are rock fishing, it's worth mentioning just how dangerous it can be, and that there might be local laws regarding life jackets that you must stick to. I've given a bit of a breakdown on the safety about rock fishing in my luderick video. I'll put it up on the screen there now. But if you're very inexperienced, I'd go check that out. But with squid fishing, look, you generally want really calm conditions. I don't even have on my rock poppers today because I'm not really expecting to get any wash over the feet. I want to fish the calmer areas instead of fishing the washes for drummer and luderick. You want to focus on the calmer areas, the bays and the little bits like this here in front of us. But it is just worth mentioning, if you're an inexperienced rock fisherman, first go check out what I've got to say in the luderick video. Make an assessment of whether it's for you or not.
Look at this, I got, had a salmon on her. Hey, they're after it, oh. Look at this, let's see if we can catch a salmon on a squid jig. This would be pretty funny. Hiya! They're after it. Oh, had him. And that's how you catch salmon on squid jigs. Oh, it came off, but that was always going to happen. Alright, back to squidding. Enough messed around with the salmon. Well, after that second squid, it's turned into a long afternoon of casting for no love. But hey, that's fishing. 2's better than none. 3 would have been better, but anyways, I hope you've enjoyed the vid. I've shown off the basics of doing it. It's not the hardest technique in the world, and if you get your first squiddly out of it, make sure to let me know. I'll be stoked to hear about that. But anyways, hope you've enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time.